Good morning and welcome to Where Entrepreneurs Thrive. On this week's podcast, we're speaking with Gaye Ribble to discover how she became an entrepreneur in real estate and how she is thriving and what makes her thrive. Gaye, good morning.
Good morning. I am so excited to be here for your inaugural podcast. So good for you. Thank you so
much for being here as well.
Well, I really appreciate it. And this is going to be fun.
So Gaye, we about 6 months ago, KW added a purpose to our mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspective. And our purpose is where entrepreneurs thrive. And as I was saying to you earlier, we decided to put a podcast together and highlight some of our favorite entrepreneurs in Colorado. And your name came to the top of the list. So
thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us your story, how you got into real estate and how'd you find your way to KW?
So I had actually 2 days ago, we celebrated my 30th anniversary of being a realtor. So I got my real estate license 30 years ago. So long time. Most of you weren't even born yet, or many of you anyhow. And so I got started. How I actually got started was I was a stay-at-home mom. And we had moved to a neighborhood where the neighborhood school, there was supposed to be a new neighborhood school built. And lo and behold, they came back and said, oh, we're not going to build the school here because there's not enough children in the neighborhood to justify a school. So I became kind of a grassroots person, and I went around, I knocked on every door in the neighborhood to find out how many children there were. Because there were a lot of kids, but they were not quite school age. But by the time the school got built, they would be. And so I did that to the degree that I kind of, started making a ruckus a little bit with the city and trying to get this, or with the school district trying to get the school done. And so the city then came to me. They were trying to annex some land and into the city, and the land that they were annexing, those kids would go to this elementary school, and they wanted a grassroots spokesperson to do this, because to annex the land, they had to do a vote of the entire city. And so I was I was in my late 20s, a stay-at-home mom, didn't, have any knowledge or, really know what to do with this, but I did. I took it on. And in doing that, I ended up talking with lots of realtors. I, just would go and talk to lots of people trying to get, enough people to vote to annex the city so that the neighborhood could be built and the school then could be built. And so my aha moment was I was sitting at a table at the city of Arvada with many of the city council members, the builder that wanted to, develop this land, and the city attorney, and, all these people. And I had called the meeting together. And here I was, 28 years old, had no, real background, no background at all in all of this. And I was paying for a babysitter so that I could be there at this meeting. And as I was sitting around the meeting, looking at all the people that were at the meeting, my aha moment was, I am the only person here who is not getting paid. Every other person at this table is getting paid. And instead, I am paying for a babysitter so that I can be here and to do this. And so I kind of thought, I enjoy doing things. I actually enjoyed the work. I enjoyed talking to all these people and everything. So the land did go to a vote. It was annexed. They did build the neighborhood. They did build the school that my kids ended up going to. And soon after that all happened, some of the people from the city council came to me and said, we would really love for you to run for city council because you did such a good job with that. And, we'd like to do that. And I was like, I never really thought about city council. How much does that pay? And it was like $800 a month, and I thought, I am not doing that. This is way too much work for $800 a month. And so I decided then that what really made sense was to go into real estate. My husband was a lender, and he had always said to me, you should do this. And so that kind of, got me motivated to be out there, not doing stay-at-home mom things as much. And so I got licensed and I went directly to Remax. And because at that time they were number one, we're in Colorado, they're, located here in Colorado. And so, but Remax did no training whatsoever. And that's a different story in and of itself, but I got turned down 3 times. They actually did a vote of all of the people in the office to see if they would accept me as an agent. And since I hadn't had any real estate background, they turned me down.
Wow.
Eventually, I got them to accept me. They gave me the conference room table. I couldn't have an office, just the conference room table that I'd have to leave every time there was a closing or a meeting or anything. And my second month in real estate, I had 5 closings in my second month. And I was an agent next to Diana Kokoska, who was in my Remax office. And so as a brand new agent, she was out there doing all of the things that she taught Bold about, all that she was out there. So I watched her. She was kind of, the goal of what I wanted to be able to do, the kind of business that she did. And that's where I got my start.
Awesome.
I was with Remax for 17 years. And I got recruited by a lady by the name of Candace Inson, who is a MAPS coach to this day. Yep. And she came to me and called and said, love to talk with you about Keller Williams. And I remember thinking, that poor woman, that she has to make phone calls and actually try to get people to come to, I just remember that. And I kind of put her off and said, right now I'm really busy, but January, when January rolls around, I'm happy to talk with you. And January 2nd, she called and she's like, you said January and it's January. Will you meet with me? And I met with her, and then she invited me to go to family reunion. And so I drugged my husband to family reunion, and he was like,
what year was this, Gaye?
2010.
2010. Okay. Oh, New Orleans, family reunion in New Orleans?
No, then it went 11. California,
Anaheim, California. Yeah.
So we went, and I drug him because he was like, we are not joining Keller Williams. And, it was just this battle to even get him to go with me. And while we were there and listening and learning, I had been to Remax conventions that were not inspiring at all. And I remember a conversation, and actually, I think it was with Matt Lee, who is an OP in our region now. And he was just this young kid, right? Young and super sharp. Mm-hmm. And I remember having a conversation with him, and the things that he was talking about. I went back to my husband. We were top producers. We were in the top 5 within Remax in our region at that time. And I remember saying to my husband, this is our competition. Yeah. And we are going to become those agents that become extinct. And we all know them, right? Like they were like big one time, at some point in time, they were this name that everybody knew. And then, a few years later, you're like, whatever happened to so-and-so? And they just become extinct because they don't keep reinventing, right? And so that was my aha moment, is it was like, this is our competition. And right now, we're high producers and, doing well, but they are way more impressive than we are. And they are talking about things that I had never talked about in a business approach. And that was really the thing. And we made the decision there at family reunion. And the next month we brought 17 listings with us and came to Keller Williams.
That's awesome. So while you were at Remax, like what level of success did you guys attain? I mean, what do you remember what about you were selling approximately?
I do. And my big aha after I joined Keller Williams is they started showing me my rankings. Yeah. Which I had never seen. So Remax did not rank people. They did not, mean, like within our office, they would always, say who the top 3 agents were from, the previous month. And that was it. And they would never say numbers. They would just say, the top 3 were blah, blah, blah. I was always in the top 3. Diana ended up leaving pretty quick after I got into real estate. She ended up going to Keller Williams.
Right.
So she wasn't around anymore. And so I pretty quickly was the top agent in our office. Right. And I always thought that the others were like really close, and I'm pretty competitive. And so, I just had to work hard so that I could be number 1 and stay number 1. Right. And I always thought that these people were hot on my trail. And I was there for 17 years, and I had no idea. I didn't know that I was the number 1 agent in Arvada. I had no idea. I had no idea. I did at one point got an award with Remax, being in the top 5. Never ever got to talk to anybody in leadership there. Never got to, just nothing, no opportunity other than and I even asked for it. There was no opportunity. And so when I came to Keller Williams, Brian Smith was also instrumental in recruiting me. And he was the one that actually sat me down and showed me all of the data. And he was like, do you realize, how much more you sold than the next second person in your office? I had no idea. 17 years. I had no idea. Wow. And so, but at that time I was selling about 50 million in real estate. Just as a husband and wife team.
Got it. So, So you moved to KW in March, April of 11.
I take that back. Sorry, it was about 25 million. It was soon after I joined Keller Williams and built a team that we got to 50, but it was 25 million. Sorry.
Got it. So, without going into too much detail, like in the last 13 or 12 years at KW, what's happened to your team?
Well, I really didn't have a team when we came. It was my husband and I and one assistant. Okay. And I did a few-year stint. I did become an OP of a market center and grew that market center. And actually, it was very successful. It is still around Keller Williams Avenues. Right. And so we grew it from nothing to, pretty good. And but all the time that it took for me to be involved as an OP, I was still selling real estate at a high level, but it was hard for me to do both at a high level. And so we made the decision to sell the market center. And actually, it was a top performing market center. Most people sell when they're down. We sold when we were up, which is a better time to sell.
You get more money.
Right. Yeah. And we really just started focusing on our team. And so that was about 6 years ago. So it wasn't until about 6 years ago that the focus was like, I want to be the number 1 team or, group actually in the region was my goal. And so we just started really growing the team at that point.
Got it. So can you kind of give us a rundown of what your team looks like today?
Yeah. So I'm actually an expansion team. And I'd love to kind of talk about that here and some of the questions of how that came about. But so I'm an expansion team with EmpowerHome Team, led by Sarah Reynolds out of the DC, Virginia area. And so we've been an expansion team with them for a little over 2 years. I am still very much in production. Last year, I sold 82 houses personally. So I am a realtor's realtor. I like to say I love real estate. I love selling real estate. I love working with the client, all the things that many people don't love about real estate. I do love. And so I have always had to fight to be able to stay in production, because in America, what we do is we tend to take the people that are best at doing something and then we put them in management, and then they might be okay in management, but they were really good at what they were doing. Now we take them out of that. And I didn't want to be that. I was a better realtor than I was, manager, business person, all of that. And so joined the expansion team, still in production. I have a director of sales. We call it our area growth leader on our team, who actually, really takes care of the agents and is training them. on conversion. And then I mentor them once they have a contract in place, and I get them to the closing table. So I help with that as well. We had 15 total on our team until about 3 weeks ago. We've just added 9 agents that are onboarding right now because
Wow,
we are
9?
growing. Yeah,
Wow.
9 are going to Washington, D.C. on Sunday for our onboarding, which every agent ends up going there. So we've got 9 that are coming on. So we're excited about that. Last year, GCI, I was high producing before I joined Sarah. I was in Gary's top 100. I was like number 88, way in the back of the room. Sarah was number 2. So it made sense to, join forces with her. And we were always about 3 or 4 in the region as far as our rankings. And so last year we were number 1 in the region, which was an honor because the competition is heavy and really talented. And so, we were very honored to be able to be, ranked number 1. And we did, I don't have my actual numbers here, but about 260 transactions, we like to say, families served, and about 170, I think, million in volume, and 4.6 in GCI.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that. That's a remarkable number.
Thank you. What I was most proud about is that many, not all of them, but many of the top people, in the top 5 are these younger men. And I'm a grandmother of 7.
Right.
And, to be a grandma and much older and more, in the latter part of my career, to be able to compete with these young bucks, it is always something that I'm really proud about, because it is harder when you're older.
I had the pleasure of handing you that trophy for number 1 in the region, which was awesome. And then also throughout Keller Williams, I believe you were was it the top expansion spoke in the company?
We were number 3.
Number 3 out of all of the expansion teams. So
all of the expansion teams.
Yeah, that's remarkable. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
So when KW added this purpose, where entrepreneurs thrive, I wanted to get your thoughts. Like, what did you think about that, and how did that land on you?
Well, it's 100% true, particularly with me. So when I came from Remax, we were a husband-wife team. We only knew to sell real estate. That is my superpower. Selling real estate comes easy to me. So that part, we already kind of had under our belt, but having a business, not at all. Right. So we were just out there selling real estate hard. And when I went to the family reunion and saw that they were having business conversations and things like that, and that was the first time it was unveiled that there was more out there than what I knew. Right. And so I really, started to learn business principles and go to all of the regional training and classes and stuff that I could get to be a part of. So that grew me then as a business person, which gave me the opportunity to be the OP, right? So that opportunity came because of the training that I got through KW. And then when I really started to focus on my team, same thing, all from, training. So growing my team, I didn't know how to grow a team. And so I had to watch other people and learn and, listen on how to do that. But one of the things that is most poignant to me is about 3 years ago, I was feeling restless. I was, again, our team was growing, and I was doing more in the management side than on the sales side that I really wanted to be in. And I was just, a little, just not sure what to do. I had been in Gary Keller's mastermind group for a few years. And remember when I got in, I was number 88. So I was in the back of the room, and I looked around that room, and probably this is why I'm proud of, the accomplishments at my age. I looked around that room, and, you got to understand, I had spent my life's purpose to get in that room. It took me 30, well, not 30 years at that point, maybe, 24 years
Right.
of, full-time working as hard as I could to get there. And I started looking around the room, and the people in that room were much younger. They had not been in the business half the time that I was. And I remember kind of scratching my head thinking, I don't even know how they could do the numbers they were doing. Sarah Reynolds, at that time, our team was selling, like 200 houses a year, and hers was doing 1,200. And she'd been in real estate for, like 9 years, and she was 34 years old. And I just remember thinking, I do not know what they are doing, that is different. I can't work harder. I can't do this. I can't do any more to get there. And I don't know. And that's really the law of the lid, right? You only know what you know. And so after having some conversations, I, approached Sarah and I said, you're obviously doing things that I'm not doing. And I don't even know what you're doing and how you're doing it. And we sat down and she really shared with me the things of what she was doing that were radically different than what I was doing, radically different. And I met with her so that I could, learn from her and do what she does. And it was so much different and so much more that it would have taken me another 30 years to be able to grow that on my own. Right. And so I ended up, after I talked to Gary, and, kind of asked him what I should do. And he's like, you need to find, like talent that, and, pay them and all of that. And I kind of thought about that. And I thought, I could go hire someone again, which that's the hardest part, right? Is hiring the right people to do that. But I looked at Sarah as proven talent, right? And at that time, we were doing, I think that year we did 119 million in volume. So we were, pretty high producers even at that time. And so I approached Sarah and we, talked about it. And I decided that what we really needed to do was become an expansion team. Mm-hmm. And far as I know, we were the first high producing expansion team to hit. And now 2 years later, like most of them are, or many of them. There's a lot that are of high producing, but at that time the thought was, for the expansion team to go look for emerging talent, right? Because it's more affordable and that kind of thing. But I wanted Sarah because she was proven talent, and she wanted me because I was proven talent. Mm-hmm. And then what we were able to do was so much more, so rapidly. In my first 9 months, our GCI went up 67% from being with her. And so when we talk about the place for entrepreneurs, I think I really feel like if I were still at Remax, I'd just be selling a lot of houses still, Right. And now we have turned it into a business. And probably the last piece to this was, before I joined Sarah, I actually had Steve Murray with Real Trends give me a valuation of my business. And, we were doing $2.5 million of GCI and, 100 million in volume. And so I thought it was worth something, right? And I went to Steve and he did it, and he's a friend, and he came back and he said, really, Gaye, your business is worth about $25,000. And I was like, seriously, my whole career has been spent on this and it's worth 25,000? Because I didn't want to be the person that just died selling real estate. But I did want to, I felt like all of the stuff that I've done should pay off at, somehow at the end. And he said, it's only worth that. And he said, it's worth that because I was the rainmaker. The business came because of me. And if you take me out of the equation, then you take the business out of the equation, right? And so it was a practice instead of the business. And by joining Sarah and becoming the expansion team, instead of me doing 70% of the business, which is about what we were doing previously, that was generated by me, this last year, I did less than half. I was about 70%, right? And eventually, not that I intend to go down in my production anytime, in the immediate future, but we intend to grow those numbers so that my amount is small, so that when I do end up selling to Sarah, there is a business to buy that is worth something, right? I would have never come to the point that I am today, where I'm looking at not only, what we've been able to accomplish and the lives we've been able to change, but also for my future. It is a bright future because of what we're building now, for 5 to 8 years from now when I step out. And that would not have come had it not been for KW. And I know that 100% because I have friends that are at other companies.
Yeah.
And they're not doing this. They're not having those conversations. And it came from learning, from growing, from getting into Gary's group, from networking with, the top agents in the country and seeing that they were doing something different. All of that, even though I was an entrepreneur, you can be an entrepreneur and really driven, but if you don't really have the tools, you don't get anywhere. Right. So my driven spirit helped, but the tools combined with that made the difference.
Yeah.
And those tools are 100%, no question, no doubt in my mind, due to what I have gained in my time at Keller Williams.
Yeah. I remember I didn't know you 2 years ago when you moved into the EmpowerHome's team. But I remember hearing about this, and I was in St. Louis running a market center with 450 agents. And I remember someone saying Gaye Ribble, joined up with Sarah Reynolds, and it kind of like blew my mind. And honestly, I didn't quite get it because you were the trailblazer. You were the team, the successful team owner who, instead of looking downward at your org chart and saying, who do I add down below me? You kind of looked upward and said, who do I become part of that will allow me to have more? And I think that's a really significant thing. And I suspect even today, with many, many others following in your footsteps, you probably still get people saying, why on earth did you ever do that? Because they don't get it.
Yeah. No, I do. Fewer now because I show them the numbers and the difference. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but at first they thought I was just crazy. I had people, how come you're retiring? Like they thought I was doing it because I was leaving the business and things like that. People really didn't understand. And, so I owe a lot to Sarah because, I approached her, but she was very receptive to that. And I will say it is harder taking on somebody who is proven talent, because proven talent does push you, right? And challenges you and, things like that. And so we grew quicker than, other expansion teams do, but it wasn't easier.
Right.
It wasn't easy. It is getting easier and easier as the years go by, as we both are learning and navigating and, doing all that. But at first it wasn't necessarily easy, but it was definitely worthwhile.
Yeah. Gaye, what do you do better than anybody else in the business? I mean, what's your secret sauce?
Probably adjusting and adapting. Right. I mean, really, when I look at all of it, while being on top.
Right.
Because people adjust and adapt when they're down, right? When they've been knocked down, and then they're like, okay, well, what I'm doing isn't working. And so therefore I better find something else. For me, it was, what I'm doing now is not continuing to grow.
Right.
We're doing it at a high level, but it's not growing. Remax, going to Keller Williams. Owning a market center, going to selling that and doing a team.
Right.
I always change at the top, not at the bottom.
Right.
At the bottom, you have to grow up. At the top, you have momentum.
Right.
Already. Right. And so you can just continue to go on. And so I think that probably is my secret sauce, is that I am able to start to see when it stagnates before it goes down, and to recognize that I need to shift to stay relevant and to continue to grow. I do believe that that probably is my secret sauce from our team perspective. So that's probably my secret sauce from our team's perspective. The secret sauce is doing everything just a little bit better.
Right.
So we don't do anything, like nothing that we're like just amazing at, but everything, if the bar is here, we set for here.
Right.
So, so when you do enough little things, it adds up to a lot of big things, but it's all just making everything slightly better than what other people are doing.
Right.
Sorry. Yeah.
I was going to say, Gary at his leadership academy that he started doing in December, he made a comment that I hadn't thought about before. And it's that the lead in leadership is what you describe. It's the ability to kind of predict the future. And when you're on top, when you start seeing the telltale signs of stagnation, you figure out what it's going to take to get you to move forward. And we see this in our industry all the time. And you mentioned it at the beginning of the call. The person that was up here is suddenly down here, or they're totally out of the business. And there's a major roller coaster, even with the really top performers. Something changes and all of a sudden they go from, top 10, top 50 down to who are they?
Right. Yeah.
We've just got a couple minutes left. Gaye, anything else you'd like to share with us today?
I just think that one of the things that I have personally grown so much in is really the concept of the people that you surround yourself with are the key to ultimate success. I have a lot of grit and drive. And so for many years, it was just based on what I could do.
Yeah.
Right. Just on what I could do. And when you're the only cog in the wheel, you're limited in what you can do. For so many reasons. And so I truly attribute the key to the success that we've had just about in every step of the way are the people around, the people that have taken time to encourage me, to mentor me, to share ideas, to believe in me and give me opportunities that, maybe I hadn't proven myself, that I would be good at. And so that is really when I took my eye off of just what I could do and I put my eye on what I could do with the people that I, put in my world or that I joined their world, things really changed. And so, you can only do so much. And the people, the leadership that you're with, I have to say Pam Kiker, my OP, is a huge inspiration and encourager for me. And so much of what I've done, it goes to her. You, Russ, just Gary, all of the different people and many agents and, both inside and outside of our region. And so that is really when you take your eye off of you and what you can do and you start putting your eye on the other people that you need to be around, that's when it really changes.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being generous and spending 30 minutes with us today and sharing your thoughts on leadership and being an entrepreneur. Gaye, if somebody outside of Colorado wants to send you a referral, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, we don't accept referrals. No, I'm kidding. They can send it to Gaye, Gaye, at EmpowerHome.com. And we would love to help them. Yep. We work from Pueblo to the Wyoming border. So we're not just Denver. We are the entire Front Range. We haven't yet gone to the mountain region,
Right.
Mountain parts, but really anything in the Front Range we can help you with.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.